Good Tuesday evening, everybody, and welcome back to another video. It's been quite a minute, but I can say this is going to be the video that I should have ended 2024 with. This is finally going to be all of the movies I watched in December. And guys, this ain't even half of what I watched. So, I've done a bunch of rewatches, and I've seen a bunch of new release movies just this month. I did a lot of catching up to
So many.
This is definitely a record for a single month. I watched 30 movies in December. That's crazy. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and talk about every single one without making this video way too long. I want to try and get this under an hour. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So the first movie I watched for the month of December was a rewatch of Twisters. You see the Blu-ray now. Yes, I own this forever now. I saw this twice back in the summer, and me, my mom, and sister watched this, and obviously this is the soft reboot of Twister with like new characters. So you have Glen Powell and Daisy Edgar Jones as rival tornado chasers, and Glen Powell is part of the Tornado Wranglers, which is like a YouTube channel that just chases tornadoes, and Daisy Edgar Jones is more in it for the science. This is a very fun movie, and I definitely won't forget that rodeo scene. That's definitely the highlight of this entire movie. So, it's fun watch, but I still prefer the original to this. So, that was my first movie, Twisters. The next movie I watched was a Paramount Plus exclusive that dropped at the end of November. I watched Dear Santa.
That is a pile of dog shit.
I don't know why I did, but just morbid curiosity. Y'all are gonna think I'm high when I describe this movie to you. This is about a kid who is dyslexic, and he has like a hard time with like his family, and instead of writing Santa, he writes to Satan. Yeah. Great start. But Satan is played by Jack Black, and this acts like Bedazzled meets Christmas, I think. And it's just Jack Black being Jack Black. And the kid in here is...
Oh my God!
Yikes. So he is very frustrated with like his life, and all he wants for himself is to fall in love with like a girl and take her to like a Post Malone concert.
That is a pile of dog shit.
And he straightens up his teeth, and I guess he asks for more money. This movie was weird. And then it has like a third act twist where it wants to make you feel something because of the death of our main kid's brother. Total tonal shift here. And it really did not add that much to the movie at all. So, that was Dear Santa. I will definitely not be watching this movie again. Moving on from there, another not so good holiday movie. Oh, they get worse near the end of the video. But I rewatched Black Christmas 2006, and I gotta say, not a fan of any of the three of these movies. That might be a hot take on like the original Black Christmas, but I found that to be just okay. But this is just your 2000 spin on the classic slasher. And it's just about like this sorority house spending Christmas in their sorority house because they have like nowhere to go until there is like a mysterious killer on the loose. And this killer had like a thing with like his mother, and
oh my god,
they produced a child together, making the kid the brother and father of the sister. That actually came out better than I thought it did. But it's still gross. This movie is... But I would much rather watch it than the 2019 reboot, which is atrocious. But if I were to pick out of the three, the original by far is the best, but it's not my personal favorite. But 2006 is fine. I just really didn't enjoy this time watching it. So that was Black Christmas 2006. Next is Werewolves. And this is basically an action thriller that pitches The Purge with werewolves. That's exactly what you get in this movie. And this is totally my thing, but the execution is just very repetitive. So, a supermoon was unleashed a year ago, turning billions of people into werewolves. And the only way to not become a werewolf in this environment is to protect yourself from the moonlight, which is a very cool spin. And I really enjoyed Frank Grillo in this movie. He also starred in The Purge, so that definitely makes sense that he's in here. But I just found this to be watchable, but kind of forgettable at the same time. It's just like those cheesy 90s action thrillers. So the final fight was kind of forced, and it really didn't add much to the story. It just had to happen. But overall, I really did enjoy this one. That was Werewolves, followed by Y2K. Totally different movie. So, this is a sci-fi horror comedy that deals with the downfall of the start of the millennium. So, if all you youngins weren't around when 1999 ended, it was a whole big thing because computers were going to crash because they couldn't convert to 00, and it would like make us live back in like 1900. Well, it turns out nothing really happened. And here we are 25 years later. So that was the whole Y2K scare. But this movie takes a sci-fi element to it, and it turns out to be kind of like Can't Hardly Wait meets This Is the End meets iRobot. That's how weird this movie is. And there is a certain cameo in here that will either make your childhood or break your childhood. See if you can guess who was in here by that clue. Yeah, I was definitely surprised myself. But what this movie really failed to do was not focus on the interesting characters and kill them off, and you're left with like the least interesting characters. So it started off as like a coming of age romance, then it goes into like a sci-fi slasher, then it turns into like an apocalyptic comedy. Lots of things that are right with this movie, but lots of things that are wrong with this movie. And I definitely prefer like the first half of this movie compared to like the second half. I was really digging the first half of this movie because it just brought me back to like the 90s with like the music choices and all of those 90s sounds that we all know and love, like dial-up internet. I don't want to go there, but that was annoying. But overall, I enjoyed this for what it was. Is it a movie that I'll rewatch? Probably, but if I'm in the mood to rewatch it. But that was Y2K. Moving on from there, we have yet another awful holiday horror movie. All Through the House. I watched this on Tubi, and yeah.
That is a pile of dog shit.
So this was about like three 20-something-year-old women who like go to like this house, and they house sit for like an older lady, and there's like trying to remember this. She hides like a very disturbed child from society, and it turns out the mother was like abusing this child, and the child comes back as like a murderous Santa Claus. Yeah, this was not really that good of a movie. So, moving on from there. The next one I watched was Ernest Saves Christmas. Yeah. I have a very balanced movie list here. You're going to be like, so you watch horror, then you watch family, and everything in between. That's how I am. But anyway, Ernest Saves Christmas is a movie that was around when I was a wee lad, of course. 1988, the year before I was born. But I was definitely the right age to watch this from time to time. But this is basically the Ernest series starring Jim Varney as this dim-witted dude that just gets into these silly situations. Well, this is his Christmas movie. And he is literally trying to figure out if Santa is real because he meets like this Santa look-alike, but he doesn't realize that he is real, and he's starting to lose his power, and he needs to transfer his powers to another successor to become the next Santa Claus. So Ernest just helps this man out to find this other man to have the other man become Santa Claus. That's the entire movie. It was silly, but very dim-witted. That's what makes it charming. So that was Ernest Saves Christmas. Followed by a very different Christmas comedy. A very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas. Remastered in 2D. So, 4 years, this has been like a weird tradition with me where I always watch this movie right before Christmas. So, this is the third and seemingly final Harold and Kumar movie. And they got themselves a Christmas movie. So, this picks up after the events of Escape from Guantanamo Bay. And Harold and Kumar don't talk as much anymore. But Kumar wants to he wants to talk to Harold a little bit more. So he goes to his house to try and make up, I guess. Well, it turns out he gets this giant blunt and he lights it and he sets a Christmas tree ablaze. And it turns out Harold's fiance is like a Mexican and she has her family over and they enjoy Christmas. Well, it turns out burning down that Christmas tree was not a good move. This is just a hilarious stoner comedy that just goes there, man. I mean, Danny Trejo is awesome as Maria's dad, and he just like goes all nuts about the spirit of Christmas. He just does not want it to get ruined for everybody. So it's up to Harold and Kumar to finally find the perfect Christmas tree and bring back the Christmas spirit for the family. It's a really raunchy movie, of course, but it has a lot of heart to it. And this is probably the one that I rewatched the most out of the Harold and Kumar trilogy. So that was a very Harold and Kumar Christmas. Might have to review that sometime in the near future. But moving on. Next up, Kraven the Hunter.
That is a pile of dog shit.
That really hurt. So, this is the third and final Sony Spider-Man-less movie that came out in 2024. And it was another stinker. This is literally about Aaron Taylor Johnson playing Kraven the Hunter, and he is just this very skilled hunter who just like gets bit by a lion, and he envelops all these animalistic senses, making him more sharper and edgier like other animals. And that's all I can really remember about this movie. This is easily one of the
Oh my god!
dumbest movies that came out this year. And Russell Crowe is in this movie for some reason, and he just hams it up. And this movie would have been so cool, but man, did they crap the bed on this one. This definitely would have made my worst of the year list, bar none. But I still think Madam Web is worse. But we've had a very crappy comic book movie year. And this is what you ended with. Terrible. So that was Kraven the Hunter, I guess. Moving on from there, I watched Carry On, which is a Netflix action thriller that stars Taron Egerton as like an airport security guard, and he is working Christmas Eve. Everything seems to go well for him until he gets like this mysterious call from a mysterious dude telling him to like do very weird tasks to have like a chemical go onto like a plane. So I've heard everybody say their praise about this movie, saying that it's better than Die Hard. What are you smoking? Yes, this movie is good, but it's no Die Hard. I mean, Die Hard is like the GOAT of action thrillers. And to compare Carry On to Die Hard, you got a lot of nerve there. So this is just like an above average action thriller, but it is no Die Hard. But I really did like Jason Bateman as the villain here, because he usually plays like a funny guy, and it was definitely different for him. So this was a fun movie, but it's not going to reinvent the wheel or anything. So If you have time, put on Carry On whenever. It's on Netflix. Next, I'll Be Home for Christmas. Yeah, this is literally the stretch of films where it's mostly family friendly. And when I mean family friendly, I had like a binge on Disney Plus. So anyway, I'll Be Home for Christmas was released in 1998 and stars Jonathan Taylor Thomas as like this very shallow college student. And all he wants to do is go on a cruise with like his girlfriend, but it turns out she wants to go home for the holidays, and he does not like that whatsoever. So the only way that he wants to celebrate Christmas is he gets a call from his dad saying that if he makes it home on Christmas Eve by 6 o'clock, he gets a brand new Porsche. Now, that is definitely bribery, and things go south from there. There's like a group of bullies that put a Santa suit on him and glue a beard to him and leaves him in the desert. And now he is dressed as Santa Claus in this entire movie. So, very weird premise for a Disney movie, but it's just like those charming 90s comedies that we got once in a while. And though this movie is silly, it's kind of mean-spirited as well. Because Jonathan Taylor Thomas just wants a car. And the only way he's going to get that is go home for Christmas. So that was I'll Be Home for Christmas. Next is The Santa Claus, 1994. And I'm surprised I don't even own this. Seen it dozens of times. And it's the classic Christmas dramedy where Tim Allen is divorced and he has to keep his son for like the Christmas holiday. Well, things go south very quick when he essentially ruins Christmas for his young son by roasting the Christmas dinner. And it gets worse from there, where he notices something on the roof and he just yells up, "Hey you!" Well, whoa! And then Santa Claus falls off the roof and vanishes / dies. So Tim Allen has to put on the suit and he starts to become Santa Claus. Now, clause is spelled with an E, and that just means like a contract. So a lot of people got the meaning of this movie wrong. So it's just a binding contract to become Santa Claus. I really enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I've watched it, God, at least over 50 times growing up, and I watch it probably every other Christmas season. So that was the Santa Claus. I really wanted to review it as well. I just got very busy near the end of December. So there's a reason why you do not see many reviews of these movies. And I really do apologize for that, but December was just insane. But moving on from there, I have The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. So,
Perfect.
A slight break from family movies. But this just turns out to be an anime spinoff of Lord of the Rings. So this was a prequel to the Lord of the Rings events where a princess witnessed the murder of her best friend's father by her own father. And Wolf, which is the son of the rival clansman, he has to get revenge on what the princess's father did to his dad. So she has to stop him before he ruins everything. This was a very surprising movie to me, and I thought I would hate it. But I found it to be very compelling, and all the battle sequences were really awesome. And this actually made my top 15 movies of 2024. So that was Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. I have a lot
So many.
to go. So moving on from there, I have Home Alone. I'll come back to Home Alone 2 in a minute, but I'm going to talk about Home Alone. So, this is the 1990 classic that stars Macaulay Culkin as Kevin McAllister, and his family leaves him alone, and they go to Paris for Christmas. Well, it turns out there's like these two bumbling burglars, and he has to defend his house before they break in. Classic movie, one of my all-time favorites.
Perfect.
Bar none, probably my favorite Christmas movie of all time. The traps are hilarious in here, and this is just an overall perfect movie. So, Home Alone 1990. And I'll come back to Home Alone 2 in a minute. Followed by Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Yes, I did catch this. It was probably my most anticipated movie of December. And this is the third outing of the series. And Sonic is now teamed up with Knuckles the Echidna and Tails. And they're up against Shadow the Hedgehog, which is Sonic in every way possible, but more powerful. So, the only way to stop Shadow is to team up with Dr. Robotnik, but it turns out Dr. Robotnik has a relative that is actually his grandfather. This movie was so much fun, and I highly enjoyed it. So, if you're a fan of these movies, I highly recommend this one. I can't really call it the best, because it definitely gets a little bit too hammy and cheesy. But we heard that Jim Carrey might be retiring, but when I heard that Jim Carrey was coming back as Dr. Robotnik, I thought that he was playing a joke on us. Well, early speculation says that he's down to come back for the fourth one. So, I definitely enjoy these movies, and this is probably like my second favorite one. The second one is easily the best one. So, that was Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Followed by Mufasa, the Lion King. Pointless.
Oh my god!
Cash grab. And I definitely mean that. So, this is a prequel to the 2019 remake that is a totally different story that showcases the rivalry between Mufasa and Scar. They literally start off as friends, but there's like this pride of lions who want to become the pride of the Pride Lands, and Mufasa and Taka, Scar, are in the middle of it. And this is just a movie where it's a big nothing burger.
That is a pile of dog shit.
This is very forgettable, and the songs were not good at all. This was a very big letdown for me. And in my opinion, I don't think this thing should exist. I said this for my Joker Folie à Deux review. Just because your first movie makes $1 billion, no matter how successful or how good it is, doesn't mean you don't necessarily need a sequel or a prequel. And this movie just leads to nothing. And the way that triggers Scar as a psychopath is that he's jealous of Mufasa's love towards Sarabi. So, very weird, and Mufasa just like scratches his eye, and that's how he gets his scar. And it's kind of lame, and just like amounts to nothing. So, I felt kind of empty watching this movie, but that was Mufasa, the Lion King. Okay, moving on from there, I have Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. So, this was the sequel that released 2 years later. I know a lot of people crap on this sequel, but I think it's bigger, better, and bolder than the original. But the original is still a classic to me. The comedy is more bombastic. You see New York as a minor character, and you have like these bumbling hotel concierge just after Kevin in New York. But of course, the Wet Bandits return, and the traps in here are better than the original. So, one day, I love the second one. One Day, I love the first. These two are very equal in my mind.
Perfect.
And I definitely watch them constantly. So, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Moving on from there, Home Alone 3. Don't worry about that, because I did not watch the fourth one. The fourth one is terrible. But Home Alone 3 is actually a really fun one. Is it the same caliber as the original two? Not even close. But this has a very bonkers premise. It's about like these 4 terrorist masterminds that secretly put a chip in a remote control car, and Alex Pruitt here, shout out to Pruitt here, he acquires this toy car and he just keeps it from them, and that's pretty much all I can tell you. The traps in here are not as funny, but this movie doesn't offend me. It's fine, but it's definitely not the same as the first two. So, Home Alone 3. Followed by Cheaper by the Dozen, and this stars Steve Martin, Bonnie Hunt, Hilary Duff, Tom Welling, Piper Perabo, Ashton Kutcher. I can go on. Richard Jenkins, and
So many.
other people. And this is just about like a family who has 12 kids, and hijinks ensues. So, Tom Baker is a football coach, and his wife there is like an author, and she goes on like a book tour for like a couple weeks, or she just leaves him alone with their 12 kids.
So many.
Well, 12 kids in one household, that ain't a good thing. So, hijinks ensue. This is a very fun movie, but it definitely makes you cringe at how many kids you can handle at a time. 12 is a lot. So, I've always watched this growing up as like a teenager. I mean, you had Hilary Duff and Tom Welling in here. They pretty much defined my childhood. So, I really enjoyed this one. So I naturally watched the sequel. And this is a more memorable story. And the Baker family goes to like a lake house during Labor Day, and they're up against Eugene Levy and his family. And they just like play like games to see who's better than the other family. So, another very fun one. That was Cheaper by the Dozen 2. I'm probably going to breeze through the rest of these, so I'm almost done here. I'm at movie number 21, Prancer. So, this was released in 1989, and it's a Hallmark movie, I think. But this is about a little girl who finds an injured reindeer, and she believes that this reindeer is one of Santa's reindeer. and she keeps the reindeer and tries to mend it to become more healthy before Christmas Eve happens. Well, it turns out this reindeer is Prancer. A very heartwarming Christmas family movie that needs to be watched at least once. That was Prancer. Moving on from there, Santa's Sleigh. Yeah, I definitely made a right turn on there. So, there was a night, I think it was actually the night before Christmas Eve, I went on Stars and I found two Christmas horror comedies. Santa's Sleigh was the first one I watched, and this was starring Bill Goldberg as like a demonic Santa Claus, and he is just slaying people. Very weird, but unfortunately very forgettable, besides the opening scene. The opening scene is the best part of this entire movie. So, that was Santa's Sleigh. Moving on from there, The Mean One. And by the poster, you know what you're getting.
That is a pile of dog shit.
A low-budget Grinch horror movie that absolutely makes no sense. So, Cindy Lou Who was ravaged by the Grinch when she was a kid, and it turns out the Grinch might have killed her parents. So, she goes on a path of revenge to try and kill the Grinch once and for all. This was not a good movie at all. Next, a rewatch of Violent Night. And I rewatched this on Christmas Eve. I've talked about this movie so many times on my channel that you already know what it is. It's John McClane as Santa Claus. So he just protects this family from being killed by terrorists. So, very fun movie. And I've watched this, God, 3 times so far ever since it came out. That was Violent Night. Okay. From here on out, all these movies, besides the last movie I watched for 2024, are first-time horror watches. The next one is Nosferatu. This one was easily my most anticipated last movie of 2024. And this is Robert Eggers' remake of the classic 1922 silent German film. And this is just a very gothic tale that features Nicholas Hoult, Lily Rose Depp, and Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok. I loved every minute of this movie.
Perfect.
And it was a very, very creepy movie. So, this movie ended up being my second favorite movie of 2024. But, the next movie ended up being my favorite movie of 2024. And this was also a first watch. The Substance. I finally watched this movie, and my God, what an awesome movie.
Perfect.
This stars Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley as two halves of one person. And Demi Moore is like an aging fitness star, and she wants to become more youthful and beautiful, so she takes the substance and it just clones her into like a more beautiful younger self of her. But the younger self of her takes her life force, and in the end she becomes Monstro Alyssa Sue.
Somebody better call an exorcist.
And the last 20 minutes of this movie is just bonkers. I really enjoyed this movie, and it's actually coming out here in the next couple weeks. I want to own this guy on Blu-ray and rewatch it here and there. It was very, very entertaining.
Perfect.
And it's actually getting awards buzz. So this could be the year where you have like 2 horror movies being considered for Oscars. The other one being Nosferatu, but I don't know what's going to happen. But that was The Substance. 4 more movies. The next one is not horror, but it is a complete unknown. And this was my last new release film of 2024. I saw this the day after Christmas, and this is the Bob Dylan biopic starring Timothée Chalamet as Bob Dylan. And this just goes through 1961 to 1965, and the whole shebang that happens near the end of this film is that he goes electric during a folk festival, and that like turns off his fans. James Mangold directed this, and he also directed Walk the Line. I thought Walk the Line was better, in my opinion. But this one was still a very enjoyable watch. So that was A Complete Unknown. Next, In a Violent Nature. Yeah, I finally watched this one. And this one, though it was very gnarly, it was also frustratingly boring. Everybody was talking about that yoga kill this year. If you know, you know. But all the kills in here were very over the top and very gory. But unfortunately, that's probably 25% of this movie. The rest is the POV of the killer walking through the woods. So, yeah. A very cool idea, but I definitely preferred the kills in this movie to the story. So that was In a Violent Nature. 2 more movies. The next one, Late Night with the Devil. And I was very surprised by this one. This one ended up being my number 15 movie of the year. So it literally just entered that territory. This one was on Shudder as well with a violent nature. And this is a found footage film that stars David Dastmalchian as a 70s talk show host. And they film like a Halloween special. And there's like an exorcism on air that
Somebody better call an exorcist.
that goes off the rails. So you have like a medium who just like goes bonkers, but you have like a parapsychologist who brings in like this little girl who was possessed, and the last 10 minutes of this movie is very weird. So this is a very solid film, and I definitely rewatch it again. It's not going to be for everybody, but I highly enjoyed it. Finally, the 30th movie I watched in December
So many.
was Abigail. I watched this on New Year's Eve, and this is a movie that I've been really wanting to rewatch again. So this was about like a group of delinquents who goes to like this house, and they kidnap this little girl named Abigail. But Abigail is hiding a very deadly secret. Unfortunately, it's given away on the poster and the trailer. She's a ballerina vampire. But this one was easily the most entertaining horror movie of 2024. For a while there, this was my second favorite movie of the year. But Nosferatu and The Substance won over it. This got demoted to number 7. But my first favorite movie of the year was Deadpool and Wolverine. But that got demoted to number 6. So if you saw my top 15 movies of 2024, you'll see what my top 5 are. But I'm very proud of my top 5. But Abigail was a blast a second time, and I would easily rewatch the hell out of this. So there you have it. Those are the 30 movies I've watched in December of 2024, and I just made it under an hour. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. My next video is going to be a review of The Damned, which was the first movie I watched in 2025. So I'll film that tomorrow. Look out for that. And I'll also give you a rundown of the possible books that I want to read throughout 2025. So I'm going to take a break from this and go to bed. That's all I got for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Adios. Peace. And thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe.